Unlocking the Soul, hosted by Rob Simperman and produced by Simplify Films.
3. Edgar Cayce as Modern Prophet. Let's jump into the past 100 years and meet our first primary spiritual source, Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet. Edgar Cayce grew up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky in the late 1800s. He worked the farm, then various low-level jobs in his youth and young adulthood. He was a devout and practicing Christian. He even read the entire Bible every year and prayed at the beginning of every channeling session that he had. In fact, his faith meant that he was shocked when information about reincarnation was revealed to him, taking years to accept it as true. So how did that boy become a prolific spiritual healer and full-time medium who founded multiple institutes? His source, as he called it, was his own subconscious, superconscious, or universal mind, though on a dozen occasions other entities communicated through him, including one claiming to be the Archangel Michael. A 13-year-old Cayce spent a day praying and reviewing his beloved Bible story about the vision of Manoah and Samson. That night, he was visited by a gloriously bright figure at the foot of his bed. He thought it was his mother and went into her room, but she confirmed it wasn't her. So he went back to his room and saw her again. This time she spoke to Cayce. "Thy prayers are heard. You will have your wish. Remain faithful. Be true to yourself. Help the sick, the afflicted." The next day, he began attaining a near photographic memory. And in the following years, he developed as an intuitive healer. He started performing readings for individuals seeking guidance. While Cayce is best known for holistic healing and predictions, he also advanced the practices of astral projection, mediumship, seeing auras, bringing many of these concepts to larger audiences for the first time. He amassed over 14,000 documented readings from 1924 to 44, but likely did about 6,000 more than that. He achieved popularity and a long waiting list for his readings. In fact, he is considered by many to have launched the New Age movement. His key message can be summed up as the oneness of all life. He also said life is purposeful as, quote, "We are born to bring the creative spiritual world into the daily material world." Life requires taking responsibility and having compassion and ideals, not getting stuck in ego-driven competition. 4. Jane Roberts and Seth. Next, let's meet Jane Roberts. She took Cayce's spiritual populism to a new level with tens of thousands of pages of text, all fairly easy to read by the masses. Her New York Times bestsellers were channeled as completely pre-edited books. They used modern language and are even witty at times. Often I'll refer to her messages as coming from Seth, the disembodied entity she channeled. Roberts grew up in Saratoga Springs, New York. She was exposed to Catholicism at an orphanage and by priests during her difficult childhood, but she primarily embraced science over religion. She attended Skidmore College on a poetry scholarship and went on to write poetry, short stories, children's literature, nonfiction, and novels. Jane and her artist husband lived and worked in their 2-bedroom apartment a block away from the Chemung River in Elmira, New York. For Jane Roberts, it all began in 1963. While writing poetry, she had a spontaneous out-of-body experience that flooded her mind with astonishing new ideas. Afterwards, she discovered her hands had been automatically writing a passage titled "The Physical Universe as Idea Construction." Searching for an explanation, she experimented with a Ouija board. After several sessions, the pointer began spelling out messages from a personality called Seth. Within a month, she was speaking directly aloud for Seth while in trance. Like Cayce, she remembered very little of the content after a session. Seth describes himself as an advanced spirit being, a teacher on many planes of existence. Seth knew Jane and her husband's soul from prior incarnations together, and, as a surprising twist, always addressed Jane by the masculine name he knew her by, Rupert. Jane Roberts had 1,500 sessions channeling Seth, some private, some with guests, and some with her ESP class she taught at the local college or in her home. These 1,500 sessions produced the content of 10 books dictated by Seth in their entirety, plus 12 collections of standalone sessions published as books, and 8 other books dictated in altered states of consciousness. The key message from Seth is, we create our own reality through our beliefs. Now, some of these beliefs are deeply entrenched, like those about if we deserve poverty versus wealth, or love versus rejection. Others are shared across all humanity and practically impossible to change on our own, like that time moves forward or gravity pulls things down. He also taught that we have an oversoul with perspective across numerous lives. It can explore the infinite variations of reality created by what we focus on. We can contact that oversoul with practice, but are usually operating on our own here at Earth. Yet our spirit world support structure is just behind the scenes of our perception, where we visit during dreams and between lives. 5. Paul Selig and his Ascended Masters. Next, consider another medium who's still going strong, Paul Selig. Like Roberts and Cayce, Selig focuses on spiritual philosophy and challenges our religious assumptions. An affirmed atheist, Selig started out as an academic with degrees from NYU and Yale. He served as a writing professor at NYU for over 25 years and was also a playwright. Selig's spiritual career began in 1987 when he developed a clairvoyant ability and began studying energy healing. Then in 2009, a voice from his guides invited him to channel a book called I Am the Word over a 2-week period. 9 more channeled books followed so far. Selig channels each fully edited manuscript over a 2 to 4 week period. Selig enters self-induced trances and channels a collective that calls itself the Ascended Masters. They claim to have been present on this plane for thousands of years in different forms. Their key messages are: a radical shift in human consciousness is available to us if we can understand the Christ as a consciousness, a frequency to align to. Several figures, including Jesus, should be considered such personifications of the Christ consciousness given to us as examples of what is possible for us all. And aligning to the Christ consciousness is our legacy, our destiny as humans.